Well, buona ieri immagino che sto firking on the sun, may I thank you for that warm welcome in the native Irish language in particular, a language that is thousands of years old. Not one of the, in a special category in the Indo-European group of languages. I very much appreciate your welcome. I'm very delighted to meet all of you this morning, and at the very start of your conference, the Overseas Global Conference of the Federation of American Women's Clubs Overseas. So may I begin by thanking Jane Donnelly and the American Women's Club of Dublin for their kind invitation to say a few words, and particularly to, again, say as we say in Irish, Kate Milfudge, 100,000 welcomes to all of you who have travelled to Ireland for this important conference. I have a particular connection with the United States in a way. I was 25 when I lived in the United States as a graduate student for the first time at Indiana University. And then I returned in the 1970s and my 30s to teach at Carbondale in Southern Illinois. And later on my trips became shorter, and maybe the papers began to become more different as I visited the west coast of the United States. My daughter, much later, was a Fulbright scholar at the New School for Social Research in New York, and lived in New York for 4 years. And those were wonderful visits to all parts of New York, wonderful New York, as I say myself, from the East Village right through the Bronx. That's right. But to do what I'm supposed to do as president. Maroon only here, and I'm the 9th president of Ireland. It's a great honour, but it's a great privilege, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you all here. The immigrant experience is deeply embedded in the Irish psyche. We've been people who, even in my own life, open to the world, and innumerable Irish people have made the journey across the Atlantic, often driven by the force of adverse circumstances. And the thriving Irish communities throughout North America are a testament to the opportunities afforded to Irish migrants in their new homelands, as well as to their adaptability and resilience. In my other life, I was a sociologist and a social historian. And I remember very clearly looking at the figures. Most Irish people emigrated to the United States after the famine of 1846 to 1849. 1 million people died and 1 million people emigrated. Many Irish sought to go to the United States by initially going to Liverpool, and they stayed there. But my wife's people, for example, who are in California for about 4 generations now, they immigrated just immediately after the famine. I think this set up a powerful set of connections, because I think that the generosity of the reception in many cases had to be that greater, because many of the people from the west of Ireland in particular would have had difficulty speaking English. The Irish language had begun to go into decline in the 1840s, and thankfully I am very strongly associated with its revival in Ireland at the present time, and I'm very happy to have been, in my other life as Minister for Culture, the founder of Television Agalia, the Irish Language Television Service. But today it means these movements across the Atlantic means that there are ties of kinship that are there between us, and I think there are ties of affection. And that is the reason Ireland has had a special relationship with the United States, and why I think it enjoys the support and solidarity of millions of people of Irish heritage and friends of Ireland throughout the United States. And I'm very conscious of meeting you in the most immediate aftermath of St. Patrick's Day. And as our teaching has been finding out, and indeed as we tackle the challenges that are there to us in terms of economic recovery, our global Irish family is one of our most valuable and cherished resources, and is deeply appreciated. And indeed all of the immediate images that are coming through show the depth of interest and support that exists in the United States towards Ireland, be it in Capitol Hill to the White House, from Wall Street to Main Street. There's an enormous goodwill towards Ireland that we appreciate, and its people too. There is regularly in those speeches that are made about the contribution that Irish people have made to the building of America, and our in turn contemporary desire, the appreciation of the desire to assist us in navigating our way out of the current economic crisis. The friendship is one that we value, and it is constantly being renewed by each succeeding generation. I think now, when I think of the circumstances, I was 25 when I arrived, and to stay overnight on the Times Square water inn before I began my journey by Greyhound bus to Bloomington, Indiana. But it is a friendship that is renewed in every generation. And I think sometimes too I say to myself, and this is relevant to your own conference, maybe because of our concentration in the mere memory of outward migration, we might somehow miss the challenges and circumstances of migration and exile that some of you experience. Migrants in general, experiencing the transience of uprooting from one place and settling in another, have experiences that our experiences have in common, it seems to me. And the people in the room here now know better than anybody the value of friendship, of a friendly face, a warm welcome, and a place to begin when you uproot and leave home for a new life, whether temporary or permanent, in a new country and culture. And countries differ in the kind of friendship that they offer. When I was in the United States as a young student or as a young university lecturer, people, because I was single as well, I was being invited to homemade ice cream on the verandas and so forth. I had my first encounters with Willie Nelson songs and so on. And at the same time, I remember being in Ireland, being at the Department of Anthropology at Manchester University in Britain, and being the first postgraduate student who had ever been in the doctoral program for anthropology. And people would almost say to me sometimes, you must tell us about your own people. But as people move around cities and universities to know where the different places are, friendship is very important. And we should never forget what Aristotle said, that friendship makes a greater demand morally than the demands of justice itself. But friendship is important, and American women and their families are fortunate that wherever they go, they're likely to find themselves not too far from a society or club made up of people with whom they share a language, memories, culture, and identity. That is the importance of your own federation. So I'm delighted to see representatives of so many such clubs from countries all around the world in Dublin. And on behalf of the Irish people, as I have said already, I extend to you all a very, very warm keen meal of fortune. I think that social scientists too, looking at the migrants' experience, sometimes miss a great deal. I've spent most of my academic life looking at migration. Migrants in poor circumstances visit railway stations looking to see if there anyone coming from home. They also, many of them, rehearse the journey back home, which they assume and so forth. But adapting to a new culture, a new way of life, it can be very exciting, but it's also very challenging. And the resources that your clubs and societies are providing to the newcomer, who might be grappling with local customs, striving to adapt to a new neighbourhood, or simply feeling the pangs of homesickness, are invaluable. And the ready network of friendship, professional contacts and camaraderie that you offer are of great benefit for your new members. Whether it is in finding a job, finding a school for your children, which is very important, learning a new language, or in the Irish case, as some of you have come to Ireland, learning to drive on the other side of the road. The challenges are multiple, and I think that our driving is something that I noticed in recent times has become a matter of comment by the State Department itself. But I'm sure you're all doing much better than they assume. The challenges are multiple, and it is a relief and a reassurance to follow in the footsteps of those who went before and learn from their experiences and the acquired wisdom that can cut through the confusion and point you in the right direction. I should tell you that migrants of Ireland to the beat campaigns in England, there's a song in the Irish language that gives a detailed instruction about how to work, how to get the best overtime and so forth. So people prepare for migration, but it is a difficult and challenging experience, and your societies are terribly important. Networks are important, and friendship networks in many cases all around the world have replaced family networks. That is our Irish experience. So what is remarkable as well about your societies is that they're entirely voluntary in nature. There's no obligation in any of you to establish something, to join, sit on the board or contribute your role. You do so because you understand the value of the friendship, the support and the solidarity that is offered by your association. And you understand that by joining together, you can benefit from the experience and wisdom of others, and in turn be able to offer it to newcomers. And that your collective voice can be a strong force for change and for improving the world. I'm well aware of your historic achievements in relation to voting rights, for example, and all of those, and your more later activities in relation to women's welfare and development. There's a saying in the Irish language, "Ar scór céile waran na daoine." That ancient phrase, it is in the shadow of each other that we all live. So as expatriates living in an unfamiliar land, you know better than anybody that you live in the shadow of your homeland, as well as in the shadow of your adopted country. And this is not to say that you live shadowed or dark lives. On the contrary, striving to draw the best from your homeland of birth and your current home, your life is enriched by this exposure to new culture and social experiences. And your societies make it a positive experience. When I was in Africa some years ago, I met some people who weren't having a positive experience, and they were known by the native people. They regarded the expatriates among them as the windways, because they used to always begin each phrase by saying it. When we were in India, we had sun, when we were in Africa, we had water. But as we gained mutual support from United States citizens in the same situation as you, and embark with enthusiasm and respect in your culture, you are putting another face into unity is strength. So one of the things that makes Ireland a special place to live and work, those of us who live here and work here, who've gone away and come back, is a sense of community. And I know that that is a value that is shared in North America. And the women who are gathered in this room today are the embodiment of a sense of community and of the possibilities that arise when a group of people take a positive decision to contribute and strengthen their community spirit. So I thank each and every one of you for the wonderful contribution you make to your adopted community and for the solidarity you show towards each other. And once again I recall the extraordinary generosity and care that I experienced myself and that my daughter experienced when I lived in the United States. When I was a young student coming into a place where you had a massive library and all of that, but also what I liked was the people who took it easy in the middle. As people who make it their business to be welcoming, who have picked the right city for your conference. Dublin is a great city. Of course it's renowned for its hospitality and welcome, and we keep saying that anyway, but it is true. And I hope that over the next few days you will feel at home here. There are two things about Dublin City that might interest you. Sometimes people used to give rather mournful speeches about Ireland. I don't do it myself. And they would say, we're a small country, but well, it's a country that has produced per head of the population more Nobel Prizes in literature than anybody else. There's about 4 Nobel Prizes. Most of them have had a good experience of Dublin. And Dublin is one of only 5 cities in the world that is a UNESCO City of Literature. But equally true, and sometimes we don't say enough about it, I think it's one of our neglects, is our contribution to science. The Waltons and all of the people who made massive contributions to Hamilton and to mathematics and so on. So in 2012, Dublin has been designated European City of Science. And I think that's just not only the inherited science tradition, but the new scientific emphasis that is taking place. And that is the reason why it was the theme of St. Patrick's Day Parade here in Dublin. So I'm just coming, we in Ireland then cherish our close and relationship with the United States, as I've said, one that is renewed in every generation. And I think as well something we're very appreciate is that Irish culture is celebrated through the United States. And we have, in taking some aspects of the United States culture here, but we'd like to talk about bringing it all back home. And the immigration I have described brought Irish music. Irish music has an unbroken seam right through our family. But at the same time it goes off and it mixes with Appalachian music. It mixes with other song traditions and other musical traditions, and it comes back enriched. So we've had a toing and froing from which we've all benefited, making a new cross-fertilized form of culture, particularly in music. The same is happening in relation to film and in relation to many other aspects of culture. And again, in New York, for example, the GA will celebrate its centenary in 2014. It's there 100 years. And I think that American sports too, I should tell you, are acquiring ever-increasing audiences here. And in the way Dublin plays host very shortly to the fiercely contested Navy-Notre Dame match, which once damaged the back of a United States ambassador very badly. Now, some people who may feel that the viewing of American football maybe it takes up too much time when you're at home, but some people say the same thing about soccer here. As a former Minister for Culture, I keep encouraging people to have an active rather than a passive relationship to sport. But I've only been moderately successful. Nevertheless, I think I do understand as well that that for a migrant in a far-flung land, a gathering of people to share a national sporting event from back home has a remarkable unifying power. And you're right to identify and shout for your team. And it provides a unique opportunity to celebrate one's heritage. The sign-up for Austin in Ireland of a quality American football match in our national stadium, which will be very colourful and exciting, and there'll be many present who will annoy their neighbours immediately by asking what's happening because they don't understand the complexity of the rules. That is all part of our national approach to humour. Moving slightly onwards then as well, and people expect the President to reflect, and I do, the connection that we have of an economic kind. The United States multinationals that are in this country, be it from pharma to Facebook, employ about 100,000 people. Equally, then, Irish investors in the United States employ about 82,000 people in the United States and all 50 states. But I think that this relationship we have economically, as a country that uses English, that is on the edge of the European Union, with 500 million potential customers, is that we are glad to be able to assist each other in accessing that market. We are very grateful for the flow of foreign direct investment. That is, whatever way you measure it, is extraordinarily high, disproportionately, by the United States into Ireland. This is, of course, and very seriously, a time of, this is very important to us, particularly at a time of high unemployment, with unemployment of 14% and 500,000 people unemployed. So therefore, I think that is why, as we make new efforts to change our economy, move off in a new departure, as Mike McDevitt might put it, we appreciate our friends in the United States. Now, I think a key feature, I'm coming towards the end of the the branch here, the American Women's Club of Dublin, and indeed all of the societies represented in the Federation, is your emphasis on philanthropy, your wish to give back generously, and to promote the rights of interests of women everywhere. I think that this is incredibly important. Through your philanthropy, you champion causes as diverse as access to clean water for families in the developing world, support for children with disabilities, access to education or emergency relief in disaster situations. You know, the psyche of the people is important in that regard. At global level, no matter where the famine is occurring, be it in Somalia, more recently in the Horn of Africa, the Irish people contribute more than any other group of people in the world. It is in a way in which I think this is what you, in assisting your philanthropy, particularly your choice of issues that affect women. I'm very conscious of that from my own visits to Africa. Women are carrying the burden of desertification. Women are carrying the burden of AIDS and AIDS orphans. It is the female member of the family who often has to travel enormous distances for water. It is the female member of the family who may have to, who gives up schooling to look after children who are infected by AIDS. Women do 80% of the actual work in the fields in West Africa, and yet they own less than 5% of the land. Women are vulnerable, women are carrying a great burden.